Hi there, my name is Sue Cooper. I'm an artist and art tutor based in West Sussex in the UK. Today I'm going to be showing you how to draw Judi Dench. To celebrate my first 6 months of having a Patreon page, I've decided to release this long form tutorial free of charge on YouTube and on Patreon so you can get a taster to see what they're like. These long form tutorials are usually about £10 if you pop over to my Patreon page, or they're half price if you are an art challenger or a one-to-one coaching member. My Patreon page is free to join if you want to see any tutorials that are coming up. In terms of the paid memberships, there's my Art Challenger tier, which gives you access to 2 Zoom calls once a month. So usually the last Friday of the month, and we have an hour where I take you through a portrait. So that one's called Portrait Club. And the second one is half an hour later, and it's Creative Coffee, just a really lovely session where we'll paint whatever we want. You can join me with whatever I'm painting, or just join us on the call and paint whatever you'd like. Now the next tier is the one-to-one coaching tier. You get everything in the Art Challenger tier, plus a half hour extra of individual coaching time where we could paint together, or you can ask me any questions that you like and we'll work through things together. For now though, I'll leave you with the tutorial. I really hope you enjoy it, and I'd love to see your results. If you do some Judi Denches, then post them on Sue Cooper's Art Club on Facebook, and I would love to see them. Thanks very much. Bye. Good morning and welcome to today's pastel portrait tutorial, and we're going to be doing Judi Dench today from the Creative Commons image that I found in the Creative Commons directory. I think it's version 3. With Creative Commons you can use any of the photos from that you would like without any ramifications, unlike if you are just taking a photo from the internet. It's often copyrighted. So I'll put the photo onto the tutorial as well, so you can download it and have a look yourself. I'm just using mine on my phone because I find it very convenient just to be able to zoom in and zoom out. I try that on the paper photos and it's not as good. I've got a couple of block pastels to try. This is Inscribe pastels, and these are Sennelier pastels. These ones are a lot softer. These ones are a lot harder. So when you put these on, they tend to stay where they are. These ones tend to blend out nicely. It's like hard butter versus soft butter. I have a couple of lots of sort of pastel pencils as well. There's these Kohinoor soft pastels, which are quite bright colours, and then these are the Brush Fear coloured charcoal pencils that I use. I'll again put the links in the description. For blending, I'm going to be using like a paintbrush, a couple of different paintbrushes. Got a one of these smudgy sticks, tortillons I think they're called, and rubbers of different types. So I've got this one, an electric rubber, which you press the button. Got a kneadable rubber here, which is very muddy, very dirty already, but does the trick fine. I've sketched Judi out onto my paper already just by casting. I'm going to get into some technical stuff now for people that maybe don't know about the technical stuff. You can cast your phone image to your TV if it's a smart TV. So I did that because it's a large TV. I managed to get her on the paper and I sketched her out already. So I don't need to worry about that. And all I'm going to do now is just start layering up some pastel. Now, some people go dark to light. I tend to go light to dark just because I find it a bit of both, to be honest. And I'm just going to go straight in with some sort of skin tones. I might find that I need to add some of my lines again. The reason I go light to dark is not necessarily for strategic reasons. It's more for cohesion. I like to give everybody like a base layer like this, a foundation, and then go dark. Sort of suits my head a bit better. You can layer paint up like this, or pastels up like this, or you can lay them together. So I could do another lot of pastel now, but if I want to see how that came out, and I do, just going to make sure that my brush is clean, and I can just start blending. If you've got a big area to do, you could even go bigger. So let's try this one. I'm just making sure it's clean, because otherwise you've got a bit of charcoal in there. So sometimes if you've got a sturdy brush, that works quite well, because it kind of pushes the pigment in the paper. I'd also recommend, you can have a little bit of paper like I had there. If you want to try out some of your colours first, then do that. I'm going to also use my bit of paper just as a bit of a block to put my hand, because I know that this paper is going to get very dirty very quickly. If you go into the hair, it's not a problem. Beauty with pastels is you can easily rub things out. So I think that's great initial skin tone. I can push up some of the pigment up here if I would like. Okay. Blow it away. Right, so this could be, I'm happy with this kind of mid-tone, which is sort of like the side of her face. I could start looking at adding some lights, but maybe I'll add the lights later. Maybe I'll start looking at doing some darks now. Darks, there's a sort of a, this is Sennelier again, it's sort of like a mauvey tone, and I'm going to use a bit of mauvey tone, I think, in her hair later as well. So I know it's going to go darker there. I think basically I do my pastels a bit like I do my watercolours, by building up the layers. I'm also using some paper that's it's called Eco Tan by Sea Whites. It's good paper, it holds the colour. I like it. It's not the most expensive, in fact it's quite cheap, but it holds colour really well, I find. Other alternatives are things like Pastel Matte, which I also really like, but you're looking at about, well, I think when I was looking earlier it was about £13 for 5 sheets of paper. So you have to really like the person you're doing. Right, let's do. You noticed I haven't really gone around her nose very well, so I wonder if I can zoom in a bit more. Let's try and zoom you in. So there's quite a lot of dark. I'm getting to the point with these blocks. I really like the blocks, but they are difficult to control. And it makes sense if you're doing a smaller area just to use a smaller brush. I'm not using those wooden, the paper stumps yet, because I find that it's best to do those when you've got a really small area. So just building up the foundation. I always sort of liken it to putting on your makeup. Sorry if you're a man listening to this, or you aren't somebody that puts on makeup, but I tend to start with foundation first and then build up. We can do blusher, and in fact, talking of blusher, she's got a sort of rosy-ish tone, so there's some red here. I'm tempted to just sort of pick it up and add it a bit like that. Can you see what I'm doing? So I've applied some of it there. If I don't want a massive tone, I'm just going to add on some of the colour. And this is why you want to clean your paintbrush first before you start doing any blending, because if you were to have done that first, yeah, you'd end up with it messing up all your colours. She's also got some on this side. Bit of rouge. You can also use a paper towel to blend, so if yours isn't blending very well, you could, for example, take a paper towel and really kind of work it into the paper to blend. Now I feel like I'm vaguely at risk of losing some of my features, so at this point I might start adding some darks. I'm not that fussed, as many of you will know, about colours, so I'm going to just have a dark. This is a bit of a plum kind of colour at the moment. I'm more interested in values rather than colours. So when you've got something like the pencil, it tends to you can apply it with a lot more control. Downside of using a pencil is that you have to keep sharpening them. So I might not stick to I like to overlap my colours. So this, I mean, we know her eye isn't purple like I'm doing it right now. But I like it to have sort of a bit of an undertone. I'm just going to add in where her those shadows are, and I'm looking at specifically this white bowl, so I'm not just adding in the dark, I'm also kind of paying attention to where the lights were. I think I will do this all the way along as well, just add in some of the lights. And she's got a real flash of white underneath her eye where the eyelid is hitting the sun or light from above. That's often the way when you're doing portraits. It's pretty rare that you won't have that line there. And whilst I'm there, maybe I'll just add in a little bit of shading for the eyebrow. So I'm just going very lightly and in the same direction. And that's because this is still very early days. I'm just adding some general darks rather than adding in the details. My new favourite phrase is don't paint the fleas before the dog. And that's basically just saying don't put too much detail right at the beginning. What we're doing is just building up tones at the moment. So so I've picked this purple. You can just as well have used something else, like a blue. Try it out, try different colours. What I choose might not work for you. We're all different. So I'm just trying to highlight some of the darks so that I don't lose them more. But can you see, if we'd have done this first and then we put the foundation on, we would have tainted all of our other colours. Down here, there's that little flash of light in between the dark there. And she's got a little flash of this little bit of dark. That's how noses are. They tend to be, they're an interesting form. One day we'll concentrate on noses, but they're an interesting form. I've just gone over a little bit too much, made it a bit too confusing, I think. I could even, I've got one of these tortillon sticks, smudgy sticks. If you don't want, you can use sandpaper to clean them. if you want them to be free from colour that you've used before. I'm just going darker in that bit. And she's got the darkness of her, she's got a little bit of light that's going to be above that nostril. So these are things that I'm just thinking about now. I'm not going to draw them in now. I started adding a light now there. It'll be difficult to maintain later and it could get a little bit messy. I'm not quite sure where her nostril is, so one of the checks I can do is to go vertically up. And it's in line with her iris, so I think that's probably in a good place. Problem with tracing, you can do most paper, including watercolour paper, 300-gram watercolour paper. The problem is, though, that you can't sometimes see all of the detail. For the lips, Dame Judi has got very distinctive lips. And the reason they are distinctive lips is because this top lip goes quite far over the bottom lip. The bottom lip just sort of sneaks in there. But it's very distinctive mouth. And it's things like that that will help you capture somebody well. Now I'm going to start doing the lips actually, just so it can have this undertone of, what colour is it? These don't have the colours on, but I'm going to call it plum. And try not to outline anything like lips and things like that. The tonal difference should be enough to give you a distinction between shapes. And I'm doing the top lip with a little bit of that plum colour, just because I know it's going to go darker than it is there, and I just think that's going to be a nice undertone. I did look up what these lines are. I thought they were marionette lines, but the marionette lines are actually these ones down here. These lines, I'm not quite sure what they are. I'm going to just loosely sketch them in as well. There's a bit of darkness on this side, so I'm just going to lightly sketch everywhere on that side. And where the philtrum is, a bit darker on that side, and it joins up to the nose. So I feel like it's quite a meditative practice, all of this. All you're doing is just looking at what's there, replicating it on the page. It's easy to resolve your problems, not like real life. If you've made a mistake, you can just wipe it out with your hand. So it's pastels are a relaxing medium, one of the more relaxing mediums for sketching pastel portraits. But the downside is they do take a while. Something that you can do in watercolors in an hour, you'd still be doing it with pastels 2 or 3 hours later. She's also got really distinctive eyes. Actually, after this, I'm going to check out Dame Judi's heritage, because she's got really interesting eyes. And once you've done enough of these portraits, you tend to work out what's weird, unusual about someone's face and what's not quite early on. So just outlining these as well kind of helps make sure that all of the features are in the right place as well. So when I tend to sketch or do some shading, I tend to just do it in the same, very gently in the same direction. And if I want to go a little bit stronger, I can. Just by adding a little bit more pressure. Just wondering what to do about her. She's got this line of hairs underneath. So this is one of the things that I wouldn't do now. I wouldn't actually start sketching in each hair. But it's nice to see where the hairs are by sort of adding a little bit of definition. Okay, I think now it's time that we started adding in some different shades. I'm going to go for this sort of dark purpley kind of colour in the real dark area. This shape actually is, if you can see where I'm shading now, so up from her eyebrow, corner of her eyelid rather, that's where her eyebrow is because it's a bit further out, and the shading actually starts here. And so I'm looking at the shape of that real dark bit. And I do want it to blend out, so I could just going to make sure that I've got my thing there. I'm just going to go really light there so it can blend in. And I'm going to basically do the same kind of thing that we did earlier, just with, maybe I'll add slightly less. This is the real darks. And I know this is brown. I might add some browns in a bit. But this is really dark, and I do want to get some really lovely darks in. And darker you can go, the lighter your lights will seem, and the more contrast you'll get, and the more of a 3D image you'll get. So it's a good idea to try and go as light as you can. Now the corner of her eye, it's really quite dark, and it goes down. Now this is where I particularly fall down with my pastels, is that I hate sharpening pastels, and I haven't found a good sharpener. I have a knife that I use to sharpen each of the pastels, and because I find that so boring, I tend to end up with quite dull pastels. Just going to try and lighten up some of it. So the underneath eyes is often quite dark because usually the light's coming from above, and that thickness of the eyelid is causing a shadow. Not going to do the same thing over there because it's a bit lighter over there. And she's got a little glint in her eye. I don't have to leave it out. I'm going to leave it out just so I know where to position it later. I might as well go dark with this blue here just to give me a sense of where it's going to be. Now, when you're shading, there's a couple of different thoughts on shading. Like where I'm doing like block shading, like now, I tend to go in the same position, but later I'm trying to get little wrinkles and lines and things. I'll go in the direction. Now she's interesting around here because of that light. So she's got this a bit of dark underneath her eye. And she's got this little bit of dark. It's kind of forming a bit of an eye bag. And I'm looking just at a little bit of shading because really I'm looking for the same dark. So if this is dark, it comes around here and it kind of is a little bit dark here, dark, almost as dark, but it's quite difficult to judge it because we're going to have quite a bit of light in a second coming in on the side of the face. So I'm going to add this, see how I get on. I want it to finish kind of here, so just make a note of that. And obviously we've got that bit of her mouth again. So I'll sharpen this for when I'm doing more detailed work, and I can do that with my knife, and I've also got a bit of sandpaper that does the trick quite nicely. In fact, I'm going to sharpen it now. So when you're sharpening, I tend to have it like this, just have it like a normal little craft knife. I just move it around in my hands a little bit. Might do a couple of little strokes. Sometimes it's easy to get the wood off, but it's harder to get the lead into a bit of a point. So now that most of the wood's off, I'm just going to try and just move that around. It's getting more and more pointed. At this point, I might use my sandpaper if I had it to hand and just smooth that up. But for what I'm doing right now, that's as much as it needs to go. Right, so having done that, I'm just going to sharpen up some of the lines. So there's quite a hard line above her eye here. And I just want to add in a little bit. I don't want to go too dark there because I want some of that shade that we did underneath to pull some weights, as it were. And then it starts getting darker there. And there is quite a hard line between the nose flap. This is what I'm calling the nose flap. This is what I'm calling the nostril. And she's got, it's kind of bent in a little bit to give her that form of her nose. Might need to do more around her nose in a bit. This is really quite dark, so I can afford to go as dark as I want there. I might add some blacks later and some browns. We'll see how we get on. Now there's a tiny subtle difference between the shade here of where it hits her lip, top lip, versus where it hits the side of her face. So that's kind of interesting to try and capture, I think. And rather than thinking in terms of, now I'm going to draw a nostril, now I'm going to draw a mouth, now you're just drawing shapes, that's all you're doing. Now I'm drawing the shape of that little bit of darkness. Now I'm drawing the shape here. If you want something more dark, just apply more pressure or go over it a few more times. Whilst I'm up here, I'm going to look at doing her eyebrow and her eye from that side. So this is a lot lighter, this side, so I don't want to go too dark. She has got interesting things going on with her eye there, like there's a little touch of white that we can look at. I do like Judi Dench. She's such a legend, isn't she? She's brilliant when I see her on being interviewed. Quite dark here. She's sort of got such an interesting eyelid. I'd love to be quite close up to Judi to have a look at what's going really on with her eyelids. They're interesting eyelids. Again, same thing applies on that side. It's quite dark on that side at the top. So after I've added the darks, I'll be able to sort of vary some of the tones a little bit later. And again, I'm not doing individual hairs at the moment. This is too early days for individual hairs. There's a slight, I'm just going to go very lightly there. Very lightly there. I'm going to modify the colour of her lips there just to go really dark. It's almost like quite an got a bit of an upturned mouth to it. If it's doing anything, it's sort of angling down a bit. To make mouths look 3D, try and add darkness in between, like right at the corners. It adds a lot of 3-dimension. It's a good trick if you're ending up with flat mouths. She's obviously got some, this is one of the ones where I might start going in the right direction. She's got sort of some of those wrinkles that some people have. Right, so once we get down here, there's quite a sharp line there, and then this, it softens almost to the edge of her face. And I don't know whether you can see how I'm holding the pencil. I'm holding it quite far back. If you're like this, you don't have as much control to get the shading. If you're back like this, you can really change the pressure quite easily. Not quite as, got a little bit more freedom of movement. some of you might be wondering whether you should be doing this sort of thing on an easel, and the answer is it can be easier to do these things on an easel. It can be initially quite hard. It's getting used to an easel is quite hard. But what you'll find if you're doing somebody from life that's not already sketched out, it's a lot easier to do on an easel, because when they're looking up at you like that, then everything is in the right, you're looking at it like you would a person. Whereas if you're looking at it flat like I'm looking now for the recording, it can end up looking distorted. So that's why it's quite useful to go and strategically make yourself cups of tea, because when you come back, you'll be able to see what's not quite right. Also, it's great to take a picture of your work. So what I tend to do is I think, oh, it's finished. I'll take a picture for the client. And then I see all of these mistakes, which I couldn't see in real life. So okay, I'll just do one. If you want to do some edges without quickly, you can sort of do it like this, and you can go right up to the edge. And you don't have to be quite so careful. Okay, so let's do some more shading. So again, with the paintbrush, I'm just being quite, I suppose, limited in where I'm going. For the larger areas, I'm using the paintbrush and blending it where I think it needs to go. And blending it where I think it needs to go. Like it needs to come a bit more under here with the skin tone. So I'm pulling some of that pigment over. Does need to be a bit more over here, so I can pull that pigment over as well. Add in some more of this Sennelier to get the darks dark enough. You can see this is quite an unusual colour for a portrait. Just going to blend it a bit through like that, then I'm going to blend it out. It's the Sennelier stuff's really lovely to use. It goes on so nicely, but sometimes it doesn't stay in the right position. Again, moving that pigment around. So don't feel like you need to buy the Sennelier. This is fine with normal pastel blocks, soft pastels. When you're buying pastels, buy soft pastels. Don't buy oil pastels. They're very different. greeny hazily eyes. Again, if you're not comfortable putting things directly on your paper, then please do just try them out first. It's only that I'm a bit, what's the term, laissez-faire with colours. So I'll blend those in a bit, making sure that my thing's not too dark. I'm going to add the white of the eye in later. I think it's a little bit, maybe a little bit browny. Most people have a darker ring around their eye as well, their iris. And just blend the ring of the iris in a little bit, because it's nothing worse than having it look like a proper outline. I'm going to blend it, the white of her eye on that side is basically almost as dark as the dark elsewhere. And then that whole area there is dark. And when I'm happy that the background's on, I'll start adding things like the, I'll start adding hairs, but only when I'm happy that that's done. So I think in conjunction of the colours that we've put in before, I think that works well. If you want to do like the lighter bit as well, just clean your brush a little bit, your thing a bit first. Doesn't matter if you're going into a dark, if you're going into a light, it's can ruin things a bit. That's going to be dark down here. That's coming around a bit more like that. Great. Just going to carry that shading up a bit. And the light is going to start from here. So the light, I'm going to add light there. Just add a little bit of the black. And I just need to capture that darkness where the light's coming down. Shift over here and do that eye. Just going to blend the colours that I put there earlier for the iris. Don't think that's too bad. Add in the pupil. The pupil is always in the middle of the eye. That's something that some people mistake. That even if someone's looking to the side, the pupil is pretty much always in the eye, middle. You wouldn't have a picture like this and then the pupil be over there in the iris. Just going where the real darks are on that side. Let's do some, I'm going to do some darks around here. going in that direction. It's the same light that we've got over here. And I've got this little sort of slight pinky tone, so I can add that too. Let's try and find another more natural pinky tone. We can start thinking about adding some lights on the side of her face over here. So let's think about, got some block. This is my harder inscribe pastel. It's all quite light over here on this side. Might actually do a bit of the hair as well over that side. And whilst I'm here, over here, so sort of a cooler grey tone for that side. And what's going to be really nice is to form that around her nose, the light. And it is lighter there, but and it's a bit pinkier. See if I can find a nicer pink. This is sort of lilac-y. I don't know whether I want the lilac. Great. I think that's going to be a nice colour. I'll start blending. I do all of the lights and then start doing more of the edges. So maybe do shorter movements like I just did there for when you're trying to blend edges. Otherwise I kind of try and blend the whole thing together. Okay, so I've done a like-for-like screenshot. What I can see is I'm going to have to go lower on her hair here. It's quite, I'm sort of making her face fat by, so I think that's going to come down here as well. That's going to be a darker lock. And then that's going to sweep round just a little bit lower than it was before. I feel like that's already looking a lot better. I'm going to give her more of a angle, like it's going out a little bit too much there, so I'm going to just try and tone that up a little bit. And I think she's got more of a bone structure than I have given her, so I think there's that light bit is coming down here really more. I've made her a little bit too jowly. Let's try and remove that. So around here, can you see the shape of that? So I'm going to try and just cut that down a little bit. Give her more of a svelte face. I guess more like that. And I'll darken this. It's very difficult to see around that area because it is all dark. So it's not, it is tricky. I obviously need to do something with her earrings and things. The yellow, it's got more of a yellowy kind of tone than I've given her for her hair. So, I mean, I've got even like a bit of a light yellowy bit there that I could sort of add in a little bit. I think I need to give her nose a little bit more shape around. Can you see like the bridge of the nose? It's a bit wide, and I think it's because it's not got so much shading over the top there. So I'm going to add that a bit, and then add a little bit of shading on that side. There's a bit more at the moment. There's no light on this side. It should be lighter. Let's try and add a little bit of pencil. Lighter on that side. Sort of under her eyebrow, which again gives it a bit of shape and tone. And I think she could do with having a bit more shading on her nose, particularly on this side and on this bit of her nose. This is a bit of a hard line that I've given her. I think in reality it's probably a bit more of a gentle curve than I have given her. So let's just amend that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's done the trick. It's funny how just like a tiny little difference can make all the difference. She needs a bit more shading under her nose here. Here. It's all quite dark. Yeah, this needs to sort of follow around her nose a bit more. It's got maybe a little bit more shading under her eye on that side. Maybe a touch of darkness on that side. Feel like that sort of wrinkle there is maybe a little bit darker there. And really we want that lock of hair coming down a bit more like that on that side too. So I'm feeling better about that already. Let's just try and add a bit more white on this side. And she's going to have that curving around her hair over there. I think she does need some strong white on this side too. So can you see it's quite hard then to add a light when you've already added things like the eyelashes and stuff like that. I think it needs to go a little bit lighter on this side. Probably a little bit lighter on this side. And then I feel like we're capturing her a little bit better, to be honest now. Make that a bit lighter. Lighten all of this up over here. Not as light. And we're going to have a lighter ear as well. When we get down here, I want some strong whites. And I think maybe if I had, still trying to think of something to put in her hair to sort of change up the tone a bit, maybe some browns. So I might leave her hair like that. I almost quite, I like it.
hope you've had a chance to join in with me. I'd love to see your results if you have. Post your work on Sue Cooper's Art Club on Facebook. Also, I do hope some of you will be able to join me over on my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/Sue Cooper. I'd love to see you there as free membership, as well as the Art Challenger and one-to-one coaching tiers, and we'll inspire each other together. Thanks very much for joining me, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.